Okay, time for change. Change to everything and absolutely anything. But with that being said, the most obvious question would be how's this all to begin? And even though this is beginning as such, it is obviously to equally understand that it has already been answered, that it is beginning as such. Of course, it is to be a free exploration into the idea of unity. And of course, I also came to make 54 explorative points, so to speak, concerning the idea of unity. So if I were to explore how has the word of unity been described, right? It has been described as such: the state of being one, oneness, a whole or totally as combining all its parts into one, the state or fact of being united or combined into one as of the parts of a whole, unification, the absence of diversity, unvaried or uniform character, oneness of mind, of feelings as among a number of persons, harmony or agreement, and mathematics the number of one. But if I were to explore the idea of the absence of diversity, unvaried or uniform character, it's equally to understand that this is the absence of the egotistical perspective state of full consciousness, recognizing that, or maybe even just more than that, if it's to equally understand that our state of awareness is our spiritual state, right? It is our spirit, our state of I am, so to speak. So if it were to be in the absence of this even, it's easily to be directed towards that of the emotional consciousness, recognizing that it is in the absence of the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness, as with the absence of the state of awareness, recognizing that we are all one and the same emotionally, right? Whereby, if I were to explore the idea of, in mathematics, the number of one, right? Now, it's easily to equally understand that everything has come to start from the number of one. But as we come to move forward into the number of two, one has also come to exist within the number of two. As it's to move forward into the number of three, it's also to equally realize and recognize that the number of one has also come to exist within the number of three. And of course, this is able to continue so forth. But of course, it's also to equally understand that, if we have come to originate from a state of oneness, is one not, how could you say, the largest number that has come to exist within all other numbers, right? So, of course, it's to equally understand that unity, the word unity, has originated from the old French word of unite, meaning uniqueness and oneness, the Latin word unitatum, meaning oneness and sameness, the Latin word unus, meaning one. Again, what has come to make us unique? If I were to explore how has the word of unique been described, it is being described as one of its kind, okay? Recognizing that what makes us one of our kind is, again, our egotistical perspective state or thought consciousness, recognizing that we have come to question this physical state on different aspects, in different ways. We have come to exist within a spiritual state through the state of awareness, recognizing that, again, we have come to exist within a state of uniqueness through that. So, that is what makes us unique. Our emotions has come to make us into a state of oneness again. So, exploring how has the word of oneness been described, it has been described as unity, uniformity, meaning sameness, singleness, okay? But if it were to explore how has the word of sameness been described, it has been described as similarity, meaning likeness and close resemblance, meaning look alike or alike. Now, I mean, it's obviously to equally understand that in this physical state, we have come to exist within a physical difference. So, what makes us alike? I mean, we have come to exist with a spiritual state. And nobody actually knows how we have come to exist as a spiritual state. So, that could possibly be the likeliness, that we have come to exist with difference but yet the sameness, right? Okay, so exploring how has the word of one been described. It has been described as single, individual or united group, a person or thing alone, the smallest whole number of one, right? But again, the single state is again the emotional state, and an individual, of course, being alone, I mean, we have to reflect, I mean, how am I able to have peace with another if I'm not able to have peace with myself? How am I able to have love with another if I'm not able to have love with myself? How am I able to have happiness with another if I'm not happy within myself? How am I able to share the experience of freedom if I haven't come to know or experience the state of freedom within myself, right? So again, it's acknowledging that the state of oneness is not only to be directed towards the united group, but it is also easily able to be directed towards that of the singular individual as well, right? So again, we haven't come to exist with alone, right? Recognizing that the state of unity is again being described as a state of unification, right? So, I mean, to describe a person or thing alone, I mean, again, through the state of balance, we are able to come into a state of unity within ourselves, but it's also through a state of balance that we are also able to be united within a group, right? And then also exploring the smallest whole number of one. I mean, isn't this an egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness, distinguishing that one is actually the smallest number? But I mean, what is the largest number? I mean, if we had to think about it, a million isn't the largest number, a billion isn't the largest number, a trillion isn't. I mean, numbers just carry on. I mean, so what is the largest number? Numbers are infinite. So it's obviously to equally understand, I mean, this is a false description. They're recognizing that one is actually the largest number, right? So if we were to explore how has the word of group been described? A number of people or things that come or belong together. Equally realizing that this is easily able to be directed towards that of the divine state of emotional consciousness, recognizing that we have all originated from the divine state of emotional consciousness. We have all come to physically exist within this physical existence, right? Again, acknowledging that we have come to share this physical existence, recognizing that we have come to share this life, recognizing that we are intended to exist within a state of oneness. But it's also acknowledging that this state of oneness has also been manipulated and controlled through higher physical states, right? Recognizing that, I mean, we have come to create everything within this physical state of existence. Buildings, parks, you name it. I mean, everything has come to exist through us. I mean, it's literally power to the people. And it is physical, controlling and manipulative powers that have come to influence the power of the people to create a world that is controlled and manipulative and also imprisoned and enslaved as well, right? So if we were to explore how has the word of together been described, it has been described as simultaneously in company, in company, right? Simultaneous, meaning occurring at the same time. Recognizing that togetherness is a state when we all come together, right? It is not he's doing this or she's doing that, or they doing this or they doing this. It is when we are all coming into a state of unity. This is the state of togetherness. And again, it's acknowledging that, to eliminate the state of difference is again acknowledging that we are to come together emotionally, recognizing that this emotional connection is to be through that of love, right? Especially when the divine source has come to use the energy of love to create a state of unity within itself and within the 8th spiritual dimensional realm, which is again the state of utopia, heaven, Zion, paradise, a heavenly state. And then this state of unity has also come to exist within this 6th spiritual dimensional realm, which is the spiritual state of the earth, the spirit of Gaia, right, so to speak. And then again we have come to exist within this physical state, but again without us realizing and recognizing that we have already come to exist within a state of oneness, whereby what I'm able to do today to another individual is able to, how could you say, affect them, but that effect is then able to, how could you say, have a reflective aspect towards it, whereby it's then able to be directed towards another individual, and then it's able to be directed towards another individual, able to be directed, and at the end of the day, my actions and my words upon one individual has not only come to have an impact on one individual, but it has come to have an impact on 10 individuals, right? And this impact is able to impact a reality, is able to impact a life, so to speak, right? So if I were to explore the word of union, how it has been described, it has been described as the state of joining into one, of being joined, the result of being joined, thus the practice of yoga, whereby the word of yoga means union, recognizing that again, the state of unity and the state of union is not only to be directed towards a group of individuals, but again also able to be directed towards us, ourselves. And if it is being directed towards us within such an aspect, it is to equally realize that we are to come into a state of unity through our ego, state of awareness, and with the emotional consciousness, whereby this is easily able to be directed towards the meditative state, right? So, if I were to explore how has the word of unite been described, it has been described as join into one, connect, becoming one. Thus, the ego, state of awareness, and the emotional consciousness all come into a state of balance, a state of alignment, right? Recognizing that through the state of alignment, we are able to explore the imaginative state, a higher state beyond this physical state, recognizing that this physical state is being explored with the egotistical perspective state or thought consciousness, and whereby the state of awareness is coming to explore the imaginative emotional state, whereby this is a state of emotional clarity. But again, it's also acknowledging that the state of awareness is more connected with the emotional consciousness, recognizing that this emotional imaginative state is to be more of an inspired state from the emotional consciousness compared to what we are feeding the emotional consciousness through the egotistical perspective state or thought consciousness. Recognizing that if I have come to distinguish information that is positive, I am able to have a positive experience. But if I've come to distinguish information as a negative, I'm able to have a negative experience. But the emotional consciousness is more deeply rooted towards the experience within itself, right? Recognizing that the experience is also a source of infinite amount of knowledge, whereby this is beyond the state of the ego as with the state of awareness. Recognizing that what we come to emotionally feel is easily able to be described as the state of truth, right? So if we were to explore, how has a community been described? Body of people with something in common. Recognizing that, if we have come to recognize and realize that we have come to exist with a state of difference, but also with a state of oneness, right? This is what we have in common, a state of uniqueness and the state of sameness as well, right? So a body of people with something in common, obviously, this is coming into a state of acceptance, right? Accepting each other for that we are able to inspire or influence a state of happiness as with the state of suffering, and then again coming to move through that of love, right? So if we were to explore, how has a clique been described, right? A small exclusive sect, faction, means minority group within larger body, right? Group of people. Now, if we are to think about this, right, on a logical basis, not just pinpointing it in all different directions, but thinking it on a logical basis, right? It's acknowledging that we have come to share this physical existence, right? It's acknowledging that we have come to share this one life, right? But in this one body, right, call it a community, so to speak, right? There are different cliques, whereby there is a spiritual clique, right? Whereby there is a religious clique, recognizing that these different cliques are able to be directed towards the different religions. And then, if it's to equally understand that also there are corporations and organizations, these have also come to create different cliques. We have come to exist within a reality, manipulative and controlled reality, that has come to separate individuals through financial status, recognizing that there's the poor, there's the middle class, and then there's the wealthy or the rich, right? And then again, these are different cliques, right? But it's also acknowledging that, if I had to, let's say, skate for a company, right, or serve for a company, I'm part of a clique and that. It's not particularly directed, or how could you say, completely directed towards a group of certain individuals. And it's acknowledging that these different cliques is basically a state of separation. Recognizing that it is to be directed towards that of the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness, especially when it is the ego that has come to distinguish what is positive and negative, what is right and wrong, what is truth or fiction, and so forth. Or hate or love, and so forth. This is a clique is basically easily to be directed towards the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness. So again, a clique is a state of separation, right? So if I were to explore, how has a society been described? It has been described as living associated with others, those so living, companionship, company, association, club, collectively fashionable people. Recognizing that, again, living associated with others. If you had to think about it, this is easily able to be directed towards the system that individuals have come to exist within. If we had to think about it, from birth, right, we grow up, all of a sudden, by the age of let's say 6, 5, 6, we go to kindergarten. Next step is primary school, next step is high school, then it's university, and then it's getting a job, and then it's retiring, and then it's dying. I mean, this is the system that individuals have come to follow through, and this is not life. There is more to life than this manipulative, enslaved, controlled, imprisoned system. And it's acknowledging that a society is clearly being this is clearly being described within the description of a society, whereby again it's living associated with others, those so living, company, association. I mean, companies and associations. Companies are easily able to be directed towards that of corporations and organizations, and it's really recognizing that companies, organizations, corporations and associations have really come to control and manipulate individuals by the way that they've come to live. I mean, if we actually think about a soap opera, so to speak, you watch a soap opera long enough, call it 30 years of your life, right? Every single day of your life, you're telling me that that isn't going to influence some state of structure onto your life, that you are not going to be manipulated by this information that's being fed you. I mean, if we have come to exist, let's say now, with a stage that we see a week where it, or let's say call it even longer, 10 years of just constant violence being seen on TV, how do you think that that is going to impact us about what we are watching? I mean, that is literally influencing us to react, and that this is a means of how to solve problems. Recognizing that again, the state of suffering will never end the state of suffering, but again, we are being influenced that violence is able to solve problems, right? And then collectively fashionable people, the brands, I mean, easily to be directed towards all the brands of the companies, the brands of the organizations, the brands of the corporations, institutions. I mean, brands. Everywhere you look is just branding, left, right and center, and individuals have come to live accordingly to these brands. I mean, the wealthy might be wearing high-class brands like Versace, Donatello, Prada. I mean, the middle class could possibly be wearing something from like Edgar's or Woolworths, or like even Mr. Price nowadays, Pick and Pay or something like that. The poor could be wearing something from Pep stores, Ackermans, something like that. But the main factor is fashionable branding has come to control individuals and manipulate individuals. Again, this is easily to be directed towards the status of the poor, the wealthy, and the middle class, of course, right? So, of course, a society is a complete state of separation, easily to be directed towards the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness. So if we were to explore how has family been described, right? It is easily acknowledging that the description is a group of parents and children or near relatives, persons, children, all descendants of a common ancestor, group of allied people or objects, right? All descendants of common ancestor. Okay, let's explore this. We have all originated from the divine source, and this is our common ancestor, and it is through this that we are able to exist as a family. If it's acknowledging that it's through love again that we are able to connect with each other and able to recognize and realize and acknowledge that we have all come to exist or originate through that of the divine source, right? So, how is a state of unity able to come together, right? I came to think about this deeply, right? Now, the thing is, if you had to break it down into 3 parts, right? It's easily to be directed towards the state of an agreement, right? Now, if it were to explore what has the word of agree, or how has the word of agree been described, it has been described as be of same opinion, right? Agreement meaning the act of agreeing on the act of agreeing, an arrangement that people have agreed upon. Now, if it's to agree that, again, we are all different, right? I mean, nobody is higher or lower. We are all different. Thus, we are all one and the same through this state of difference, right? So again, this agreement has to be made through the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness, recognizing that I have to just come into a state of acceptance that people are going to be different with different thoughts and different beliefs, and just accept them for the way they are, as long as they don't come to harm me, obviously. But this then is easily able to be directed towards the state of consideration, whereby if it were to explore how has considerate been described, it has been described as taking care not to inconvenience or hurt others, recognizing that this is easily able to be directed towards the state of awareness then, right? So if it were to explore how has the consideration been described, it has been described as careful thought, a fact that must be kept in mind. Again, keeping in mind that, I mean, through the state of love, how are we able to hurt each other? I mean, if we had to just be completely honest with each other all the time, and coming into a state of acceptance of this honesty, I mean, rather honesty than to live a life of deceit, is it not? So, I mean, this is coming into, again, where am I? If I were to explore fact, it has been described as something that is certainly true, recognizing that it is certainly true that we shouldn't harm each other. It is certainly true that we shouldn't cause the state of suffering upon each other, recognizing that it is most certainly true that we should all love each other, right? So, to explore the next step is, again, the word of respect. I mean, how has the word of respect been described? Admiration for good qualities of someone or something. Admiration. Admire meaning to think that someone or something is very good. Now, if it's to cleanse our thoughts of all the waste that we are able to think about individuals, right? It's to what are we left with? We are only left with positive thoughts, recognizing that this is coming to acknowledge the peace that we are able to discover within others, the love that we are able to see within others or discover within others, the happiness that we are able to discover within others, and the freedom that we are able to discover within others, especially when it's peace, love, happiness, and freedom that is all able or is all associated with the spirit, right? So it's acknowledging that this respect has to come from the emotions, right? It's respecting, thus easily to be directed towards the word of Namaste, which means as to respect the individual which is within you that also exists within me, recognizing that the divine source has all come to exist within us, and it is through the divine source that peace, love, happiness, and freedom is to be discovered within not only ourselves, but within all other emotional living beings as well. So, to move on, again, it's acknowledging that what we have come to question is with the ego, what we have come to understand is with the state of awareness, and what we have come to believe is with the state, is with the emotions. And again, aligning this is the state of union through that of an individual, right? Again, it's also acknowledging that the learning state is connected to the ego, and the knowing state is connected to the state of awareness, and the meaningful state is associated with the emotions. Again, the physical state is associated with the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness. The imaginative state, thus the emotional state of clarity, is to be associated with the state of awareness, and we have come to mostly exist with the emotions, right? So it's again acknowledging that the state of three within all of this, right? But then, right, if it's to explore this on a much more broader perspective, right, if it's to acknowledge that the divine source has also come to emotionally question all the infinite amount of knowledge that it came to sensationally learn, right? And through coming to question and sensationally learning this infinite amount of chaotic knowledge, right, it came to emotionally understand, right? And through emotionally understanding this infinite amount of known questionable knowledge, it then also came to create a known state of meaning, right? This is the process of the divine source, thus the power of three, right? So easily able to be directed towards that of pi, right? Now, pi is obviously the power of the divine intelligence, right? So if we were to explore this in mathematical terms, right, if you had to take 3 times 3 equals 9, right? 9 times 9 equals 81. But again, we have all come to originate through the 9th spiritual dimensional realm. Again, the 10th spiritual divine source has come to originate in the 10th spiritual dimensional realm, and we have come to originate through the 9th spiritual dimensional realm. Thus, the number of 9 is the divine state's fingerprint, God's fingerprint, right? So again, 9 times 9 equals 81, right? A plus 1 equals 9, right? 81 times 81 is 6,561, right? But then if you had to go 6 plus 5 plus 1, 6 plus 1 equals 18, right? 1 plus 8 equals 9. To continue this on a broader perspective, 6,561 times 6,561 equals, what is it? 4 million, no, I'm going to just say it, 430,46721, right? Now, if you had to add that all up, 4 plus 3 plus 0 plus 4 plus 6 plus 7 plus 2 plus 1 equals 27. 2 plus 7 equals 9, right? Thus, the number of 9 is God's fingerprint. Again, we have all come to originate through the 9th spiritual dimensional realm, right? But then it's also acknowledging that, I mean, from at the beginning of this, right, there was of course the beginning, and then there's going to be the center, and then there's going to be the ending. But it's also acknowledging that the beginning has also come to exist with a beginning state, a center state, and an ending state. As with the center state, also coming to exist with a beginning state, a center state, and an ending state. And was with the ending also come to exist with the beginning state, a center state, and an ending state. Thus, add it all up together, it's the number of 9. Again, easily to be directed towards the state of birth, life, and death. Again, there's a beginning, center, and ending to the state of birth. There's a beginning, center, and ending to the state of life. And there's a beginning, ending, and center to the state of death. Again, add it all up together, the number of 9. Again, also easily able to be directed towards that of living, existing, and surviving as well, right? But, again, the power of divine intelligence is also the divine state of I am, right? So if it were to, I mean, if you actually think of the symbol now, right? Pi, right? Now, capital letter P, obviously, power, and with the I, right? Small letter I, right, is the singular individual with a halo on top, right? Now, the singular individual with a halo on top is easily to be described as an enlightened individual, recognizing that we have come to tap into our divine intelligence through the state of awareness, right? So again, the state of awareness is linked to our spiritual consciousness, our spirit, right? So this is tapping into our divine intelligence within our spirit, right? Which is again also associated with the divine source, as with all other existing life that has come to originate from the divine source. So again, it's easy to acknowledge that Buddha came to explore spiritual wisdom, right? And that Jesus came to explore pure emotions, right? So if we were to then direct this all to the six senses, right? So it's intuition, sight, sound, scent, taste, touch, right? But it's to acknowledge that intuition, sight and sound is to be associated with the state of awareness. The scent, taste and touch is to be associated with the ego, recognizing that the seventh sense is the experience of all of this, which obviously is the emotional consciousness. Again, through coming into a state of union, right, through ourselves, it's to experience all of this, right? It's to acknowledge that we have come to exist within all of this. This is coming to exist within a state of union within ourselves, right? So if we were to then explore that of the crown, the chakra systems, right, it's to acknowledge that the crown, third eye, throat is to be associated with the awareness, state of awareness. The heart is obviously to be associated with the emotional consciousness. The solar plexus, sacral and root is to be associated with the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness. Now, to flow this through into the seven virtues of life. The crown is obviously associated with the state of humility. The third eye is associated with kindness. The throat is associated with forgiveness, of which is all associated with the state of awareness. The heart, which is associated with the state of passion, is again associated with the emotional consciousness. As within the solar plexus is associated with charity, temperance and patience is associated with the sacral chakra, and the root chakra is associated with chastity. Again, acknowledging that this is all associated with the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness, recognizing that coming into a state of union is not only coming into a state of union through the seven virtues of life, but it's also coming into a state of union through the state of awareness, the emotional consciousness, as with the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness. Then directing this towards a more negative aspect, right, is to acknowledge that, we have also come to exist with seven deadly sins, right, so it's acknowledging that the crown is associated with pride and the state of hierarchy. The third eye is associated with the state of envy or jealousy. The throat is associated with wrath or anger. The heart, and then obviously that is all associated with the state of awareness. The heart chakra is associated with the state of despair, which again is also associated with the emotional consciousness. The solar plexus is associated with greed. Sacral is associated with gluttony. Root is associated with lust. Again, all easily able to be directed that it is all associated with the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness. Again, to align the chakras is to align the seven virtues of life. But again, it's also to acknowledging that through aligning the seven virtues of life, as with aligning the seven chakras, we have also come to align the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness, state of awareness, as with the emotional consciousness. But it's also acknowledging, right, that if this were to be directed towards the state of the sun, earth and the moon, right, it's acknowledging that the sun is to be associated with the emotions. The sun is the source of energy. This is come to radiate so much energy into this physical state and has come to make so much grow. I mean, it is associated with the divine state of light. I mean, we can't actually look at the sun. I mean, we're gonna go blind if we actually had to look directly at the sun for long enough, right? So it's acknowledging that that is to be associated with the state of emotions, which is again the source of light. The earth is associated with the state of awareness, which again is the source of truth. The moon is then to be associated with the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness, recognizing that this is the source of question again. So full moons, right? I mean, this is cleansing the questionable state of the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness through the source of light. I mean, when the moon comes to shine at its brightest, this is literally cleansing our our questionable state of the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness. Whereby, if we were to celebrate the eclipse, obviously celebrating the darkness of the eclipse is easily able to be directed towards celebrating a state of darkness. However, celebrating after the state of darkness, right, whereby this is easily able to be reflected as a state of rebirth, right? So I mean, that can't possibly be seen. I mean, this is basically being reborn, I mean, into a new life, change, so to speak. So again, the upright triangle, I mean, reflecting upon all of this, I mean, the upright triangle symbolizing as above is to be associated with the state of awareness. The downward triangle, again, is symbolic to as below, which is associated with the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness. 6 points altogether. Then there's the 7th point, again, the emotional experience, which is associated with the emotional consciousness. Again, it's acknowledging that the upright triangle has come to exist with 3 points, the downward triangle has come to exist with 3 points, and of course there's the center point, the one and only pure state of emotion. Okay, so then it's also then to acknowledge that at top, right, is the state of awareness, the center is the state of the emotions, and then the bottom is of course the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness. But it's also then to acknowledge that, I mean, the future, the present, and then the past. The future is to be associated with a state of awareness, whereby through this emotional imaginative state we are able to tap into psychic abilities through the state of awareness. Again, we are to experience the present. I mean, if we are exploring the emotional imaginative state, we are to experience through the emotions. If we are exploring the physical state and coming to question and distinguish the physical state, we are to experience through the emotions again. So it's again acknowledging that the state of awareness is to be associated with the psychic state, the emotions is to be associated with the experience, as with the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness is then easily able to be associated with the state of remembrance, recognizing that, I mean, I can remember easy things from what happened yesterday and all of that, due to my what my egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness has come to explore within the physical state. But if I had to meditate deep enough into my emotional imaginative state and try and connect with the divine source in such a divine state of love and trust, I am then able to possibly explore a glimpse of my future state, right? So again, aligning all of this is again, I mean, if we actually think about it, the state of unity, right, or the state of union is, I mean, it's able to be directed towards, I mean, an individual coming into a state of union with with themselves, a state of union with the earth, and a state of union with the universe. Thus, if we had to come into such a state of union with everything, we are able to be described as divine beings, so to speak. I mean, this is literally coming to a state of acceptance, trust, love, happiness, peace, with everything in total acceptance, and coming to know everything in complete, right, through the state of union, right. So again, existing with birds and insects, plants, fish, animals, and individuals, it's acknowledging that again there is the sky, the land, and the earth, and the water. And again, it's acknowledging that plants, insects, birds, fish, animals, and individuals have all come to share the sky, the land, and the water, right? So it's again acknowledging that through a state of union with the earth, it's coming into a state of acceptance, that tapping into the state of union through all these existing beings within this physical state, right? So I mean, if we had to explore all of this meditative experience, right, I mean, this is then easily able to be directed towards the inward spiral of the number of 6, right? However, drawing the spiral of 6, right, let's just do this, right? The start is in the unknown. It's acknowledging that the start, as you come to start, is within the complete unknown, and yet it's also then acknowledging that the ending is in the unknown, recognizing that through this spiral state we have come to exist within a limited state, and recognizing that the limited state, I mean, is an imprisoned and enslaved state, right? So if we were then to direct this towards the outward inward spiral of the number of 9, right, it's acknowledging that the start is in the unknown, recognizing that we have all come to know that we have all been born somewhere, right? This is the start of our life, but we are to freely exist within our life, right, within an imprisoned or enslaved state, recognizing that we are to explore all different directions of life, right? So it's acknowledging that this outward spiral is then also in the unknown. The ending is in the complete unknown. We are never to know when we're going to die. We may know that we are going to die, but we don't actually know when we're going to die, right? So it's living a free life, right? And then it's also I mean, there is also more to what. Then it's also come to acknowledge that if we had to reflect upon this outward spiral state, I mean, there's more to everything. There's more to everything in life. There's more to everything in plants, birds, fish, animals, individuals, right? Thus, the number of 9, again, the outward spiral is, I mean, there's more to everything, right? But it's also then acknowledging that with us being so out there, right, with all our thoughts, I mean, our distinguishing state of the ego and all of this, I mean, we are so out there. The inward spiral of the number of 9 is coming into a state of sentiment, a state of meditation, a state of balance within ourselves, right? So then, I mean, reflecting on the number of 3 of Om, this is a sacred frequency of life, and that if we had to use this Om chant, we are able to come into a state of meditation. But then it's also then, I mean, if we had to reflect upon the circle of life, alright, it's acknowledging that the start and the ending is always at the same point, otherwise it wouldn't be a complete rotation. And yet it's acknowledging that there is an ending and a start to this physical life, and there is an ending to this physical life. And again, this is a 360 rotation, and the numbers together is the number of 9. But it's also acknowledging that, I mean, this could also easily be directed towards being that of an imprisoned and in controlled state, whereby if a system has come to use the circle of life, right, and then placing you in the middle of it. I mean, this is basically you standing still while the whole world around you is moving around, right? The whole world is living while you are just standing still, being a slave or a servant or a prisoner, so to speak, in your life, right? So then, if we were then to direct this towards that of the yin-yang symbol, I mean, there are three parts. There's the yin, yang, and then there's the center point of balance, the line, right? And it's acknowledging that the white, the yang, is to be associated with the state of awareness. But our emotional imaginative state, through our emotional imaginative state, our state of awareness is also able to have negative explorations, thus nightmares or bad trips from psychedelics, so to speak. But then it's also acknowledging that what the yin state, the dark state, is to be associated with the ego, right? But the ego is also able to explore positivity within this physical state, right? So again, the center line is all based on the experience of the emotional imaginative state and the physical state, right? So then, I mean, if we are to then direct this towards the number of 8, standing up straight, I mean, this is easily to be directed towards the described as the infinity symbol, right? But standing up straight as the number of 8, pointing and making a dot at the center of at the top, at the middle, and at the bottom, right? It's easily to acknowledge that the dot at the top is to be associated with the 10 spiritual realm, which is the divine source. The center state is to be associated with present life, and then again the bottom is to be associated with the first spiritual dimensional realm, recognizing that this is returning to this state of emotion, right? So it's acknowledging that, I mean, the infinity symbol is not only able, is not to be symbolic towards that of never-ending life, but it's also able to be the symbolic towards the state of reincarnation, recognizing that, I mean, if we have come to originate from the 10 spiritual dimensional realm, right, crossing into the present life, living out our life, right, then descending into the first spiritual dimensional realm. It's depending on how we've come to live within this physical life that we are then to transcend back into this present life and then live a reincarnated life, or depending on how we have come to live within this physical life, we are to skip through the present life and then return back to the divine source, right? But then again, splitting this, if you had to take a line and split this straight down in the middle, this is to be symbolic. The middle path is to be symbolic towards the split of male and female, or positive and negative. And again, this state of separation is coming to create the number of 3 through the number of 8, right? And then turning the infinity symbol, right? It's to acknowledge that again, there is the beginning dot, and then there's the center dot, and then there's the end dot, and then the first dot from your right or from your left, right, is to be that of the past, then is to be the present, and then is to be the future. And then again, splitting it is to be that of symbolic to the male and the female, the positive and negative. However, this is also then easily to be directed towards the state of our thoughts, whereby, how have I written it here? The present choice is able to affect the future is to affect the present is to affect the past is to affect the present, and then the present is to affect the future. The flow of choice and how it's able, and thus this is the flow of choice. I mean, again, the present choice is able to affect the future is able to affect the present is to affect the past is to affect the present, and the present is to affect the future. Thus, I mean, if we actually think about this in a logical sense, This is coming into a state of unity within this present state, recognizing that our present choices, what we decide today, is not only able to affect our future, but it's also able to affect our past. And our past is also able to affect not only our present, but also our future. As with the future, not only able to affect the present, but also the past as well. Okay, so obviously, an individual tries to start a community, right? Now, obviously there's going to be some egotistical minds that are going to try and describe this as that of a cult, right? So how has the word of cult been described, right? A cult is a religious sect organized around a strong leader and requiring beliefs and commitments not typical of other related groups, right? Thus, a cult is then easily to be directed towards all these different spiritual groups that have all gone to this one specific leader that they're all following, and they've all come to exist with these different commitments within these spiritual groups or religious sects, so to speak, right? But then, starting a community, broadening this into the state of spirituality. There have been communities that have been described as occults, right? Whereby this has always been described as a very, very dark matter. And truth be it, that there are those that with very negative, dark intentions. But then it's also acknowledging that an occult could also be directed towards that of the Amish people, right? Whereby, if an occult has also been described as the following: secret, mysterious, hidden from view, right? The Latin word originates from the Latin word occultus, meaning hidden secret. Okay, and then quoted by Wikipedia, the occult is knowledge of the hidden, or knowledge of the paranormal, right? As opposed to facts, and knowledge of the measurable, usually referred to as science. The term is sometimes taken to mean knowledge that is meant only for certain people, or that it must be kept hidden. But for most practicing occultists, it is simply the study of a deeper spiritual reality that extends pure reason and physical science. Right. So, in me exploring spirituality, I have come to explore numerology, astrology. I'm actually quite interested in astrology and also deeply interested in numerology, but I've also come to explore Christianity, Hinduism. I've come to explore Judaism, Rastafarian, Buddhism. If I have come to talk about the 7 chakras being the churches and all of this, this is basically describing me as an occultist. And yet, if we had to look at this even on a broader aspect, if the Native Americans, right, have their tribal beliefs, right, and Africans have their tribal beliefs, it's acknowledging that this is also basically describing these individuals as occultists as well. This is also basically describing numerologists as occultists, astrologists as occultists. But it's acknowledging that, religion has been manipulative and controlled by the ego, right? And has basically found manners or ways to basically persecute, right, individuals, right, harmless individuals. We saw women, children and males being burned by the stake by a whole bunch of Christians back in the day because they were witches, but we will actually never know if they were positive or negative witches, recognizing that there are both kinds. Whereby, a spiritualist is not technically a negative individual, whereby these individuals aren't bad. African tribes and all their beliefs aren't bad individuals. And it's acknowledging that, again, not all this knowledge is known to everybody. This knowledge is not openly being shared with everybody. So the mere fact is basically being hidden. However, this hidden faction is able to be directed towards the state of the Illuminati, right? Whereby, I mean, if it has been described as must be kept hidden or secret cult, thus an imprisoned or enslaved. I mean, this is easily to be that of the state of the Illuminati, the order of the dragon, right? So, moving forward, I mean, we have to acknowledge, I mean, in every religion, right, individuals have all come to greet each other as brother and sister, right? But within this evil state, right, it's to acknowledge that there's always going to be a master, right? And that master is always going to have servants and slaves. Well, slaves, right? So the mere fact is, we have to acknowledge that religion and spirituality, there is a family state there. If we are all greeting each other as brothers and sisters, and we're all coming to exist within a community and that state. But then it's also acknowledging that this evil state has also come to exist within a state of unity. I mean, there are individuals that are literally inspiring to be masters of this physical state of existence, right? So then, I mean, the divine source is this divine state of I am, right? And it has come to exist within the 8th spiritual dimensional realm, a divine state of union, right? Not only, I mean, if you actually literally think about it, I mean, the divine source came to sensationally learn and understand an infinite amount of chaotic knowledge to create a state of union within itself, and then release the state of union to create a state of union within the 8th spiritual dimensional realm, only then for it to be released again into the 6th spiritual dimensional realm, for it to exist within a state of union, only for it to then to be released unto the 3rd spiritual realm, intended for it to exist within a state of union. Okay, so, I mean, if we actually think about it, the words of Julius Caesar, right, I mean, he came to state it, to divide and conquer the people, right? This is basically, I mean, to divide and conquer the people. I mean, conquering individuals is only going to be achieved through the state of fear, and it's acknowledging that this state of to divide is a state of separatism, recognizing that this state of separatism is easily then to be directed towards the state of racism. So it's acknowledging that this society that has been controlled and manipulated by these higher states of governments, corporations, organizations, institutions, industries, have all come to use different ways for us to even go against our other cultures, and not only based upon status, but again literally based upon race and culture as well, color as well. So again, it's acknowledging that there is, I mean, is there a state of unity within the state of separation, whereby there's always going to be a master, right? And that's always going to be trying to control. So everybody's going to always try to be, I mean, if we actually think about this logically, is there a state of unity within the state of separation? I mean, if the ego is now, let's seeking to be on top of the other person, let's say in popularity status, there's going to be another ego that's going to be trying to be on top of that individual, and then there's going to be another ego. So the whole time it's going to be this, right? So the whole time there's going to be this competitive state of who's going to be on top of the next individual, whereby, I mean, if we had to then think about the biblical quote that comes to state, okay, Mark 12 verse 17, which states, "Then Jesus said to them, give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." And they were amazed. And then to direct this towards the following biblical scripture of Matthew 22 verse 21, which states, "Jesus said, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." I mean, this is basically stating that a government should free all emotional living beings to live in a state of unity within this physical state, to live within a state of unity within life, this physical life, and to explore the state of unity and to experience the state of unity within this physical life. And it's again acknowledging that governments, corporations, organizations, industries and institutions have all come to influence a state of separation. So again, I mean, if we had to think about it, again, directing this towards the state of an individual being an occultist, right? Jesus was a spiritualist, right? So, I mean, this is easily to be noticed through the biblical scripture of Matthew 6, verse 22 to 23, which states, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, the whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, the whole body shall be full of darkness. How great is that darkness! No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one or love the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. Revelations 1 verse 20, which states, the mystery of the 7 stars that you saw on my hand and of the 7 golden lampstands is this. The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 lampstands are the 7 churches. Thus, it's coming to acknowledge that again, we are able to have a natural meditative experience. How could you say? A physical meditative experience. I mean, okay, start there. We are able to have a physical meditative experience through the state of compassionate within this physical state, through coming into a state of compassionate through our egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness. If we had to just keep in mind not to hurt or harm any individual, keeping their emotions in mind constantly and continuously through our egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness, we are coming to give rise to our state of awareness to explore this physical state as a meditative state, right? But then we are also able to have a natural state of meditation whereby we are able to come to sit down, center ourselves, and then of course explore and experience the emotional imaginative state. But then of course we are also able to have a psychoactive meditative state, whereby this is an induced meditative state through that of cannabis or LSD, LSA, mushrooms, DMT, you name it, the psychedelics, besides that of, how could you say, the Datura experience, which is basically a very, very dark experience. So we are able to come into, I mean, a state of unity through the meditative state is basically coming to explore the physical meditation, the natural meditation, and the psychoactive meditative state. So again, directing this back onto symbols, I mean, if we had to think about the cross, right, just 2 lines, okay, one going straight down and the next one going across, right, in the center, I mean, obviously in average, in equal perspective, right, but in the center, of course, is the state of the emotions. The vertical line, the line going across, is to be associated with the state of the ego, and then with the vertical or horizontal state is to be associated with the state of awareness, recognizing that again we have come to question this physical state through this vertical line, and then we have come to transcend through this horizontal line through the state of awareness. Okay, so again, if we were to explore alphabetical letters and numerical figures, I mean, acknowledging, right, that again the divine source came to sensationally learn this infinite amount of chaotic knowledge, but that this infinite amount of chaotic knowledge, one, came to exist as numerical figures, right? And through learning this about all these numbers, right, it came to understand how these numbers can be used to creatively produce, right, recognizing that these numbers came to change, possibly, let's put it into imaginative state, came to change into alphabetical letters, And then again, these alphabetical letters are able to then come into a state of meaning through words, right? Whereby we are able to measure the state of a box. But to spell the box, we need alphabetical letters. And those alphabetical letters are also within accordance to that of the alphabet. And again, if we are to count each alphabetical letter, it is able to be associated with a numerical figure, right? But again, we have come to transcend from 12 spiritual dimensional realms, or emotionally originate through 12 spiritual dimensional realms. It's acknowledging that any number that is to be above 12 is only to be added to come into a number that is to be under the number of 12, right? So, I mean, if we are to then, I came to also discover this quote, right, just recently. If you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. If you are at peace, you are living in the present. Again, easily to be directed towards the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness, recognizing that the ego is easily able to be associated with the past, but it does not know the future. And yet, coming into a state of sentiment within the present comes to give rise to the emotional state of awareness, whereby through this, I mean, we are coming to experience the state of truth, coming to acknowledge the state of truth, whereby what I am experiencing within the present moment is the state of truth. Whether it is happiness or suffering, it is the state of truth, and I am acknowledging this through the state of awareness, not through the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness. I am coming to emotionally understand this and know this through the state of awareness, that what I am currently experiencing is the state of truth through my emotional experience, right? So, to end this all off, I mean, I think I've gone virtually everywhere on this, right? So to basically just end this all off, it's then to acknowledge, I mean, the state of unity has come to exist with happiness and with suffering, right? And the center line is to be the emotions. I mean, happiness is to be associated with the emotional state of awareness, and the state of suffering is to be associated with the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness, acknowledging that we have come to emotionally understand and know what happiness is, and we have always come to question what suffering is. And we have again come to experience this as a state of truth within this physical state. I mean, especially when Buddha came to state that suffering and happiness both exist within this physical state of a life, right? So it's acknowledging that the state of unity is able to exist, that if individuals had to come to accept this, into a state of agreement, that there will be a state of happiness and that there will be a state of suffering. But it's through love, which is not a state. Love is an energy. It's through love that we are able to overcome suffering. And it's through love that we are able to increase the state of happiness within this physical life. And if that is within equal understanding, may it be so. So may the lovers keep on loving and haters keep on hating, and with that being within the equal understanding, may it be so. Namaste. Blessings.